I've been talking about AI quite a bit. I don't think people truly understand how devastating AI is going to be very rapidly. But technology in general is reshaping everything. So as we mentioned with video games, what we're seeing is technology is chasing after self-gratification. And so for a lot of young people, they are being offered up the means to trigger the dopamine release in their brain in absurd ways. Video games obviously is a big one, but also porn and other distractions. You have an endless stream of entertaining content that pulls you away from the real world and tells you to sit at home, stay on your couch, and binge. Used to be, well, we had 3 channels, and there were a handful of shows, and they came out with an episode once a week. So there's no binging. It was, if you liked a show, you watched it, and if you didn't, you didn't. So you'd come home from work and you watch TV with the family, maybe. Even then, it was getting a little bad. Now, I mean, how many streaming services are there? You got Apple, you got Prime, you've got Paramount, Disney, you've got Max. What else? What am I missing? I'm missing a bunch.
Hulu.
Oh, yeah, Hulu.
Disney Plus.
Yeah, I mentioned Disney,
yeah.
so Hulu. And did I say Netflix?
Probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
There's too many shows. You know, I mean, and now with the AI revolution coming, you will be able to just AI generate new shows. It will be an endless stream of hypnotizing, draining content that pulls you away from the real world.
Yep.
Once again, I guess I could just say self-correcting problem. It is most likely that Christian conservatives, due to internal moral faith-based reasons, will avoid these things. And your average urban liberal or even a moderate conservative will walk right into it. And then what? After a certain period of time, they just don't exist anymore. The product becomes an untenable product because conservatives don't want it.
Well, the part about all of this that worries me is the isolation. You know, solitary confinement is often described as torture, right? But now we're trying to entertain people while they're torturing themselves. You know, human connection, we are relational creatures, and avoiding relationships, in-person relationships, is ultimately slowly torturing ourselves. We are not getting better, we are getting worse, but we have the facade of connection through Twitter, through Facebook, through all of these different means, through technology. It is a simulation of human nature, but it is not the real thing. It's going towards like aspartame instead of real sugar, you know?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, just real quick, this has been the noon hour for the Rumble Morning lineup, and we're going to be sending you guys to go check out Jeremy Hambley at the Quartering, who's live now. However, we will still be live for another hour. If you want to hang out with our conversation, just pop on back or go check out Jeremy for the latest news. It's live now, but we'll get that raid going in a second. So we appreciate all you guys hanging out, but we'll keep talking. So one of the issues that I think is we will be forced to adopt Neuralink technology and AI technology the same way we're forced to adopt cell phones.
Yeah.
A company will start using the service because it's easier, and then you will resist buying it. We talked about this last night with Neuralink, for instance. AI is going to allow us to rapidly advance technologies, map out new inventions, and we will come to the point where you will put on the Neuralink headset, connect to your brain, and then it will input into your brain the sensation of being in an office, and you will instantly experience like a virtual reality that's indistinguishable. But now we can all sit here and say, I don't want it. I prefer the real world. But what happens then when your company gets a call? You know, you get a sales rep who says, hey, there's a company that wants to, buy, a large amount of product from your company. They're wondering if they can hop on a Neuralink with you. And you go, I don't have Neuralink, and I don't do that. So that's the only way they do calls. They want to meet you face to face in the neural space. And you go, well, I don't do that. And they say, okay, deal's off.
Okay.
Then some young guy goes, I'll take a deal. I got a new company. I just started it, and we'll take a Neuralink with anybody. Puts the headset on, goes to them, $100,000 contract. Your company loses it. Their company gets it. So you may still resist, but then your company goes out of business and is easily replaced by the company that then goes to your employees and says, guys, the job in the manufacturing space still exists, but you've got to use Neuralink if you want to work here.
I think that there are a couple examples that can provide some hope for why that might not be the case. I mean, we look at the failure of the vaccine mandates to have the impact that they intended it to. That ultimately failed because a significant percentage of Americans, many of them Christian conservatives, said, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. And I think that we're also talking about Christian conservative families being more prolific in their children than more liberals. And so I think as a mathematical question, we could say like they are likely to say like, no, we have a theology of the body that says I'm not going to place anything inside my body that's controlled by someone else's technology. They can iterate on the language of that, but they'll say like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I think ultimately people will find, and we see this kind of today, and I don't mean to sound Pollyannish about it. I don't think it's going to be an easy fight by any stretch, but I think people will ultimately rebel against the pragmatism that says if I need to put a device inside my brain that's sending signals into my...
Doesn't need to go in your brain.
Or like on my head. I mean, ultimately that's the push, right? The push is like where we're going to go from phones to wristbound devices to something, a chip in the wrist. And yeah, they're going to slowly
I don't
work
think they'll
on this.
ever do surgery, but a headset.
Maybe. I mean, I think the real question is, do you know, the question about Neuralink is not what's coming out of my mind, the question is what's being put into it and coming from where, right? So the question is not like I'm having information, like some 3D or 4D, whatever vision implanted in my mind. What else is going in on the brain waves, right?
Right, that you don't know about.
That you don't know about. And that's the real worry. And I think people...
That's true for cell phones right now, though.
I mean, it's not something that's like physically connected. I can put my phone in my bag, right, and I can still have a conversation with someone in person.
But the idea with future Neuralink that it will be a wireless device,
right?
So
but are you wearing it all the time? Because I've only seen the chip implanted in the brain, and that's a hard no to that.
That's not going to happen. Okay. Because your body will reject the chip. Getting hard implants doesn't work. Your body pushes it out. What we've seen already is that they can write to your brain. Really rudimentary things, and they can read from your brain wirelessly.
Yeah, pass.
So you can buy, we did this 15 years ago, me and my buddy, we bought an electroencephalogram. It's a headset you can buy off the internet for $100, and it reads your brain waves. You can then think and control a cursor on a screen. And so there was an x-axis and a y-axis. I never figured it out. Me and my buddy, we tried it once. But my buddy's sister put it on and she instantly could move one line up and down, and we were like, whoa. You could theoretically use it to control a drone. Mm-hmm. So we were actually trying to figure out how to do that, because then you could put the headset on and control the drone with your mind. The technology that we'll end up seeing is going to be just like a cell phone. It's going to be like you put on a headset, and it's going to read right to your brain. And so the point I'm bringing up is certainly many conservatives will say no. A lot of older folks don't have cell phones either, and they don't want them. But society will dictate. Society is going to, like I already described, there's going to be... Right now, with the remote work generation, this mass amount of people that feel they shouldn't have to come into the office, there's whole communities with millions of followers dedicated to remote work. I think it's horrible. But what happens then when the company says, you can work remote, just put on your Neuralink, and then we do our work in the neural office? Here's what else that does. A company won't need to rent office space for meetings anymore. They'll say, physical space is expensive, so we just do neural meetings. You put on your headset, you sit down, and then instantly you are experiencing, written to your brain as if you are in a room with all your coworkers in an office. There's video games, there's pizza, you're in a massive building. You can look out the window and it looks like you're in San Francisco. People are going to adopt that.
That almost reminds me of the movie Surrogates. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Like,
people were transmitting their thoughts into a robot body to live their lives for them.
Like Avatar?
As much,
yes.
As much as you're saying that, part of me wants to be like, I'm naturally optimistic, but I'm kind of with you. I think we're obsessed with convenience. And I say this as someone who's worked in IT. I like technology. I work with it, but I'm also scared of it because I've worked with it, and I understand how humans, especially in a prosperous society like ours, we want the next great thing. We want the next thing that makes it a little bit easier. The getting up to go and touch the TV to change the channel gets replaced with the remote, gets replaced with your cell phone. Like everything just
it's replaced with not even looking at the TV because you're busy looking at your phone.
Right. Now you can talk to your TV.
Yeah.
Like it's just the level of constant convenience, constantly increasing that and finding the next thing. And obviously there's a profit model based on new technologies and things like that. I think you're probably right, Tim. I think we're going to go in that direction. And I do think that there are more people who are going to adapt to it, and the people who don't adapt to it will die off.
Yep. And then AI.
Yeah.
And, one hypothesis we had the other day, people will have nothing to do at all. And they will plug themselves into neural spaces to simulate hardship. We go to, so we go to the gym. Why do we go to the gym? Because humans need struggle.
Yeah.
Right.
We
For
have
some
to,
reason.
if humans evolved imagine this earth was just, there were cheeseburgers manifesting out of thin air, and they'd sit there for a minute, disappear, but then manifest again. And if you ate it, you got the nutrients of the cheeseburger or whatever perfect food. Humans would be doughy and would never work out. But humans needed to farm and work hard and struggle to survive. And now that we've made life easier, if we don't do those things, we actually get sick. We need exercise. We have to constantly be working. So we simulate the struggles of survival to maintain our bodies. What happens when AI rolls out with these neural spaces? AI has taken over every job. Humans have infinite food and have no reason to do anything. We're going to put ourselves into fake universes to simulate hardship because we need the conflict to survive.
I think I'm trying to think about this in theological categories, and I'm thinking that if we're willing to sacrifice our humanity for the efficiency of the machine, which is now what's driving the state and the marketplace, if we're willing to say, you know what, efficiency, pragmatism, all of these things are worth more than the experience of humanity, whether it be physical hardship in the world, face-to-face meetings, the ability to talk person to person. If we're willing to make that sacrifice of saying, you know what, an individual human life, not a big deal. We have to really sacrifice for the good of the marketplace. I don't think that that's ultimately a sustainable equation. I don't think so. I think something in us will rebel from it, and I think we need a reevaluation of the individual worth of a human life. Humans are made in the image of God, and if we really believe that, then we would say, then there's something very good about creation, about this, about the dirt, about the sky. And I don't know that God said there's anything very good about the virtual reality world that is driven by the machine God. And so I think if we can start thinking in those terms, like, no, there is something very good about this, we can say, yes, technology has its place. And I don't mean to push it out entirely. Technology has been an enormous blessing, and that's part of why we don't have to do these Mayflower journeys anymore. But the right ordering of it in terms of how we conduct our lives is very important to think that way. It's too easy to fall into, well, I just want to do it for convenience sake instead of evaluating the morality of it, the theology of it. And that I think we really need. And to the Christian conservative point, having children, discipling their kids that your body is good. The earth is good. And I think that can be a bulwark against a lot of this. At least I pray it will be.
Have you guys seen the Elsa Gate stuff that's come back?
No.
Do you know
Frozen?
It's derivative of Frozen. Have you heard of Elsa Gate? We're on the third iteration of this scandal. And it went away for several years. The first was that on YouTube, these videos would pop up that were half an hour long with no talking. And it was someone dressed like Elsa, Spider-Man, and the Joker running around engaging in shenanigans. They were inane, weird gag videos. People started to notice that all these videos were going viral, getting hundreds of millions of views, and then other prominent YouTubers started making some of these. I think even Ethan Klein made one of these videos, for real. Because they're like, hey man, this is what the people want. And I'm here to make videos that get views. And YouTube panicked and was like, oh crap. So they started demonetizing some of these videos. We then got Elsagate 2, which is when people started using computers to auto-generate creepy videos of like Hitler dressed with a woman's body doing Tai Chi. It's not even a joke. With the Incredible Hulk, while some Indian people sang the Finger Family nursery rhyme. So this emerged when nursery rhyme started getting hundreds of millions of views. Notably the song Finger Family. Are you familiar with this one?
Yeah.
It's like Finger Family, how are you? And then you say index finger, middle finger. So what happened was a parent would put the tablet in front of their baby and press play. When the video was over in 5 minutes, it would autoplay the next video. So people in India started mass producing extremely creepy, low quality versions of this where they would put keywords in it like Incredible Hulk, Hitler, Nazi, things like that, Spider-Man, Joker. Then the thumbnails that started getting the most clicks, they'd use computers to basically track which videos get the most. It started transforming into thumbnails of children eating feces, drinking out of urinals, cutting each other, stabbing each other.
Thumbnails.
The thumbnail images for the videos themselves. There were videos of like Peppa Pig being run over and mutilated by people, like a car would run him over, and then it was a computer would generate the video based on keywords they'd put in.
Algorithmic.
Right, and it was just tracking what YouTube was promoting. YouTube finally nuked all these videos and created YouTube Kids. They may have already had YouTube Kids, but I think they rolled it out and said, now we're going to stop this once and for all. Today, there's a new version. It's the same thing. AI-generated videos of Spider-Man eating hot dogs. They're really creepy and deranged videos, and they're getting hundreds of millions of views. Even after nearly 10 years, this problem has been going on. It's been written about. I think even the Wall Street Journal covered the story. Parents are still putting tablets in front of their kids and pressing play on deranged psychotic videos. This is what kind of blackpills me on the whole AI future thing, is that, hey man, if you're from India and someone tells you can make $100 in 10 minutes by making a video like this, they're going to do it. Mm-hmm. And then in the United States, we're constantly battling against this kind of slop content, and parents are giving it to their babies. We then run into this conundrum where you had RFK say wants to ban artificial dyes. I'm for it. The libertarians say, no, we should be allowed to consume coal tar if we want. If we want to buy coal tar products for our children to eat, we should be allowed. And at the same respect, internally, the libertarian mindset is if parents want their children watching Spider-Man stick a needle in Joker's butt and then gargle hot dogs, they should be allowed to do it. Parents don't know what this is doing to their kids, but they think it's fine. This blackpills me on the future because I think we're going to have a generation of their children growing up now consuming all of this, and it's going to fry their brains.
Too late.
Indeed.
Yeah. No, really.
Some of these kids are 10 years old already or older. Yeah. The Alcegate stuff was happening 8 years ago. Some of these kids might be 14, and they were 6 or 7 staring at this deranged psychotic stuff of Hitler with boobs. I'm not kidding. A video where Hitler has a woman's body. It's a woman's body with a Hitler head doing Tai Chi. These kids, their brains are going to be totally warped and deranged. Yeah. And they're going to vote 10 more years.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm voting for Hitler tits.
Yeah, or they're asking their wife to put on the Hitler mustache.
There is that.
Come on, babe, you know what I'm into.
The new Pornhub category.
Worse than that, though, is it's one thing when you have kids growing up and they're adopting personalities based on weird TV shows and movies.
Yeah.
But what happens when they're adopting a worldview and behaviors and personalities based on schizophrenic psycho content made by AI?
Right. Can we turn that around? Like if you were to unplug that kid right now and give them no screens for a year, would their brain be able to recover from that hardwiring?
I don't think so.
That's a good question, right? And then the question becomes, what do we do with that generation, right? Do we simply feed into that, allow them continue down that path, or do we, contra the libertarians, say we draw a line and say, you know what, there are some freedoms that are actually destructive to us. Like, yeah, should you be free to drink yourself to death? I suppose that you should, but is that actually what you want, or are there some lines that actually must be drawn, morally speaking?
Faithless in the chat says Titler. That's a good one.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't think they can recover from this. I think that the baby's brain has developed neurons and was wired to interpret that information as the world. You can't undo that wiring. When authorities discover children that had been kept in captivity, at a certain age, they can't learn anymore. So there's a story that came out, I think, only a few months ago. A girl was locked in her basement since she was a baby, and she escaped when she was like 16, and she spoke in a very strange way because she'd not been exposed to other humans to learn how to communicate with them. So the police were confused because she was struggling to convey ideas to them, to explain that, if you've never been taught simple concepts like kidnapped, restrained, chained, held, she goes to the police and says, "We were in the basement too long and need food." And the cops are like, "What?" She goes, "We're in the basement too long. We're there too long." And it's like, I don't know what you mean by too long. What's going on? She's trying to say we are held captive, but doesn't know how to convey those ideas. There was another young girl that was chained in house and abused. And this is an older story. When they recovered her in her 20s, she literally couldn't learn to speak any language. She only learned words like food. And so when she was hungry, she'd go, "Food." And they try to explain to her, say, "I want to eat." She couldn't do it. The babies from the ages 0 to 5, the neural pathways are forming in the brain to allow the human to do certain tasks. Yeah. So what we're seeing now, I think.
Well, I mean, to be fair, there are lots of, unfortunately, I'd say very unfortunate, there are lots of children who experience very traumatic events very early in their life. And it really just depends on how they interpret it, any sort of help for these particular traumatic events. Actually, within my book, I talk about, I try not to use the word, I talk about a woman that I know who was raped at the age of 5. But how she talks about it is very matter of fact because she was able to resolve it. It doesn't mean that it is not a painful memory or something that happened to her, but that in the same way that could have easily have told her that all men are this type of person, and it could have, and without some sort of interference, it could lead her down that particular direction. So I think you're absolutely right. There are certain parts of childhood development that is crucial, but when it's something that is traumatic, it just depends on how traumatic it is and how they interpret it, and if there's some sort of interjection. So, like you said, if you take away that tablet, let's say they watch that video, they get scared, take away the tablet for a year, does that change anything for them? Or are they all of a sudden like incredibly afraid of Hitler? Like, I don't know. And so it really just depends on how traumatic it is for that particular child, and I guess how you approach trying to have them manage it or to change how they view these things.
What a weird phobia. Like you're an adult and it's just like, you're at a therapist. What terrifies you? Hitler with boobs. When I was a baby, I had to watch those videos.
Yeah.
I think more likely, though, they will develop identities around it. Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.